With chronic illness and autoimmune problems, not to mention my 2 genetic issues, there is no cure, ever. That will never be on the table for me as an option. These days, with a lot of kinds of cancer, patients are at least, they have a chance of being cured. I don't have that luxury. I will never have that luxury. But I can be just as sick as they are, or sicker, for years and years. But because I have something else that starts with the letter C, I can't get the same help. How is that fair for me as a patient, for me as a person? Howdy. Okay, I am on my last section of stuff in the Poopy week. And one of the biggest things that I have been researching and looking into and watching videos about and blah, 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 is my ability to do IV fluids at home. And going to the ER every 2 weeks, and that's after I wait too long to go anyways, it's not going to work for me long term. This is making me miserable. I keep getting sick when I go there. It's just awful. So, I have broached the subject a couple times with my GI, since she deals with so much of my stuff. And she has always, almost like flatly refused to even talk about it. Highly against them. And so what I decided to do is I wrote her a letter. And because I wanted to get all of my thoughts like in a organized fashion, as opposed to in an appointment and I like want to talk about it and she's rushed and I can't get my thoughts in line, and I didn't want to do that. Like, I wanted it to be very well thought out. So I wrote a letter, and I am gonna read the letter. I had no intention of giving it to her until I have an answer on whether or not my insurance is gonna approve the IVIG therapy. My rheumatologist has been fighting that battle for almost, 3 months now. Well, 2 months now. It's been a process. And so I was gonna wait until I figured out what was gonna go on with that. And after the last ER trip being so horrible and me getting sick afterwards, I decided that I wasn't gonna wait. So I sent her an email, my GI. I sent her an email, told her all the horrible that happened at the emergency room, and then sent the letter. I told her I had written her a letter, but that I wasn't ready to give it to her, so I was officially ready to give it to her. So I'm gonna read the letter because I'm hoping that it'll help some other people like put their thoughts in line. And then I'll tell you how it went. Okay, Dr. Fabulous. I want to talk to you about a port so I can run fluids at home, so I decided to write a letter. This way I can organize my thoughts and explain where I'm coming from. I specifically would like to talk to you about a chest port instead of any other kind of central line for several reasons. If I can get something like this, I need to be able to 100% care for it myself. I can't do that with a pick or a Hickman. I also want the ability to access and de-access the port as opposed to the other two, which would be accessed all the time, increasing my risk of infection. I know that this would put me in a higher risk of care overall, and that I would need assistance from home health until I'm proficient with the care on my own. Let me start with, I know this isn't a normal request. On the flip side of that, my body is not a normal body. I've been fighting health issues since before I can actually remember. I can remember fighting some of my autoimmune conditions at the age of 7. That's 32 years of fighting, and the last 3 or so years have really taken a toll on my body and mind. But I'm incredibly thankful for the awful journey I've been through the past few years because I finally have answers. I know what I'm dealing with: 2 genetic issues, EDS and ichthyosis, 2 autoimmune conditions, Sjogren's and Raynaud's, dysautonomia as well, POTS, and then all of my secondary issues: horrible GI problems, complications from the feeding tube placement, eye issues, recurrent thrush and sinus problems, UTI and kidney issues, muscle and joint pain and instability, unexplainable MCAS rashes, and my new nemesis, dehydration. I'm incredibly realistic about the fact that my conditions aren't fixable. I can't expect a cure for my conditions to pop up, not to mention the fact that most of my conditions will more than likely get worse as I get older. That's a scary thing to wrap my head around. All I can do at this point is do everything I can to treat my symptoms. I want all the tools I can to help my quality of life. I'm tired of being miserable all the time and doing nothing to try to get ahead of problems before they get out of control and put me back in the hospital. All it feels like I'm doing now is chasing problems, which is putting me farther and farther away from feeling better. To me, all of this comes down to quality of life and being proactive about my health instead of the reactive battle I've been playing. I love my life. I have the best life and the best future ahead of me, and I can't wait to get to it. But chasing issues like horrible constipation and dehydration every day takes a huge amount of energy I just don't have to spare. I also travel, and I'd like the freedom to continue to travel. I need the ability to take care of myself no matter where I'm at. If I had the port, I would have the ability to hydrate anywhere as opposed to being bound to around here in case I get dehydrated and have to go to the hospital again and again and again. When I get to the point of dehydration I know I can't fix, I'm scared. My health system isn't just a few minutes down the road for me. On a good day, it's an hour away. On a bad traffic day, it can be an hour and a half away. Even further if I'm at work when I have a crisis. That's scary for me, especially when I have to drive myself. Calling an ambulance doesn't do me any good because I can't go to one of my closer hospitals because they don't have all of my records or understand what I'm dealing with. With my health issues, I understand that my health is complicated, which is one of the reasons I finally decided to move everything to my health system, including my primary, to consolidate my care. This was a huge step for me and one that I agonized over for months, but I had so outstripped the resources of local doctors who just didn't have enough experience or knowledge to help me anymore. It feels like dominoes most days. One thing goes wrong and then it's like dominoes and my health comes crashing down. I hate going to the ER, especially when I'm so worried they are going to want to admit me when I show up for dehydration, which makes me wait longer than I should go to get help. But I want to be able to fix these issues myself. The cost of a trip to the ER is ridiculously high, and I have my own health insurance, not to mention the fact how many hospital-acquired infections and deaths occur each year. 1.7 million infections contributing to 99,000 deaths. These stats are way worse than problems/infections occurring with ports. I'd very much like to cut down on ER hospital trips as much as possible. I'm much more worried about catching something at the hospital, especially since they always want to keep me. My GI tract is so bad that I have trouble with volume of any kind. Food, feed, liquid, it all adds up to the same total I can process. Anything that is too much and I get sick, losing everything in my system. This is even harder on my body and puts me behind the 8 ball again and again. The dehydration makes it harder on my kidneys, which already have issues after the medication problems last year, not to mention getting recurrent UTIs and stones. If I had better hydration, I'm hoping this will help a lot and across a pretty wide scope of my conditions, especially considering so many of my conditions affect my moisture levels. My skin loses moisture, my low-grade fevers burn off moisture, my night sweats take away moisture, lots of my meds dry me out, all the things I have to do to keep my large intestine moving takes more and more moisture. Moisture I just don't have on my own anymore. My rheumatologist is fighting my insurance right now to try the infusion therapy of IVIG to help my Sjogren's POTS and hopefully some of my other issues. I'll take any help I can get. These will be much easier on me if I already have a port I can have access before I show up to the infusion center, not to mention give me the ability to hopefully progress to doing the infusions at home, saving me more time in the vehicle, which is harder on my body, not to mention decreasing the risk of infection even further. Being in the ER to receive fluids is getting me by, but it's also a huge amount of liquid put in a very short amount of time. So the increased fluid so fast helps the hydration, but then my kidneys are working harder and my energy levels take a huge hit on top of already being so down from the dehydration. I've been force-feeding myself for years and years because there was nothing else I could do. Now I'm having to try to find some balance of food, feed, and liquid so my GI tract doesn't shut down completely, require me to get an ostomy of some kind. I want to avoid that at all costs. And I'm having to force more and more liquid down to counteract what I'm using, what makes me feel sick all day, every day, and all night, every night. This feast or famine approach I've had to adopt puts me already compromised system through a roller coaster of issues from not enough nutrients and hydration to too much. Dehydration is also affecting my blood sugar, which keeps dropping, making me shake like mad for a couple hours, which is very hard on my body. And I'm having to eat or drink sugar, which can sometimes really upset my GI tract. Dominoes. I'm seeing endocrinology about the sugar issues, and we're getting a game plan together on what to use to test and treat my range of okay and not okay blood sugar. My potassium also keeps dropping too low when I get dehydrated, which makes my already bad muscle cramps horrible. It feels like I've been hit with a hammer all over my thighs and biceps. And I feel like this for days before I finally ask for help. Then several more days my body takes to calm down after receiving the fluids. Not to mention my cortisol being really high, which has my body on a state of alert all the time. My veins are strained due to the EDS and complicated more by my POTS reaction to getting IVs. My IVs can fail. I've had hospital stays where it's taken 7 different people jamming things into my arms to get an IV in, always complicated by dehydration and my Raynaud's. This is so incredibly hard on my body. I've tried speaking to you about this, and I know you're dead set against it. I understand your reasoning and your extreme hesitancy to discuss this. I very much understand that there is a risk of infection from a port when accessing and deaccessing. I very much respect your opinion, and more than that, I consider you a friend, which I do. You've been through a lot with me, but I also can't let another patient's reaction to a potential treatment affect my course of care and options to help my body. I know you see a lot of my problems, but you mostly only see my GI side of things. You don't see my kidney problems, stones, migraines, muscle and joint issues, eye problems, skin reactions, that are all affected by my inability to get enough moisture into my system and keep it there, along with my secondary complications from the feeding tube with horrible nerve pain and muscle cramps on my left side. Sometimes this is made worse with food and liquid. And of course, nothing is consistent from day to day with what I can eat, what I can drink, how much I can feed, and for how long before I get sick. Riding this roller coaster every day and night is getting harder and harder to maintain any semblance of a normal life. And honestly, that's all I'm looking for. As normal a life as I can get with all of my special snowflake and glittered covered poop added in. Plus, I'm not asking for huge amounts of narcotics to take away the pain of all the things I'm dealing with. I'm simply asking for an alternate route to get fluid and to hydrate my body. I have a lot of reasons why I believe a chest port that I can possibly keep for upwards of a decade before I have to replace it could help my quality of life and overall energy level. Riding this ever-revolving roller coaster of demands I'm putting on my body is taking its toll. I want to do everything I can to help me lead my best life, and right now I'm falling so far behind I'm worried I'm never going to catch up. Is this going to fix all of my issues? Of course not. Would the surgery take a toll on my body? Yes. Is there a potential for infection? Absolutely. Is there a potential this won't help things long term? Of course. But is there a potential this could help me and help a lot of the things I struggle with 24/7? Very much yes. I don't do regrets, and I don't play the what if game. Not to mention so much of this awful I have to deal with is mental. As long as I have my head in the game and the right perspective to keep me grounded, I know I'll feel better, and hopefully soon. You made a comment on the phone one day when you were telling me why I didn't need a port, that I didn't have cancer even though some days I probably feel like I do. This has stuck with me ever since you said it in an incredibly jarring way. With chronic illness and autoimmune problems, not to mention my 2 genetic issues, there is no cure, ever. That will never be on the table for me as an option. These days, with a lot of kinds of cancer, patients are at least, they have a chance of being cured. I don't have that luxury. I will never have that luxury. But I can be just as sick as they are, or sicker, for years and years. But because I have something else that starts with the letter C, I can't get the same help. How is that fair for me as a patient, for me as a person? You know I'm incredibly proactive about my body, my health, my conditions, and potential treatments that could make a big difference to my overall quality of life. I've had to be, or I still wouldn't be here. As of right now, along with my primary, I have 15 subspecialties that are trying to keep my body going. Each subspecialty is wonderful, and I'm so thankful for each of them, but it's almost like I'm standing in the middle of a room surrounded by 15 closed doors. My doctors are on the other side, each looking through their keyhole at the area they're trying to treat. I'm the only one that sees it all and feels it all. It is trying desperately to keep the dominoes from falling again. Chronic illness is not easy. It is so very much not easy. There is nothing more stressful in my day than food and liquid. This is very, very hard considering how much liquid I'm supposed to be getting in. I want a great quality of life. I have fought incredibly hard for the answers that I now have and help I'm getting. I have to be my biggest advocate because I'm the only one living in this body, and no one else, no matter how well-meaning, can tell me how I'm supposed to feel. I have one life and no do-overs. I want to be able to take care of myself and enjoy every minute I can, and I'm asking you to help me do that. Thanks so very much for your time to read this. I had even more to say than I thought I did. Looking forward to discussing this with you. So, she called me the night that she read the letter, and she said, I tried my absolute hardest not to cry reading your letter. And she said, I bawled reading your letter. And she said, I get it. She said, I finally get it. And she said, thank you so much for taking the time that you did and writing all of that down and putting your thoughts, you know, down in a way, you know, that you could share them. And she said, I've been so dead set against this because she had 2 patients that she had gotten ports for, which was actually for TPN, not for this. And they got infections, and so she's sworn off of them completely. And she said, I very much understand that you're trying for a normal life. I very much understand that you're trying to keep going and that I work full time and I have a 15-year-old that I want to do all the things with and the amazing boyfriend and my parents and my friends, and, you know, being sick all the time is not what anybody wants to do. And she said, so in light of your letter, I give you my blessing on a port. And, oh my gosh, I got so emotional. I'm going to do it again. Okay. But unfortunately, that's not the end of the story. Because the kind of ports that she can prescribe, per se, I'm not exactly for certain what kind or where they are or whatever, but they are for TPN, which is like intravenous feed. So if a feeding tube fails or it doesn't work for somebody, whatnot, that's what she would put in that kind of port. And so with this kind of port, since it's more all-encompassing and very vascular and whatnot, she wants me to talk to my cardiologist about it. And my cardiologist is actually in another health system. He's my only doctor that's out of my health system currently. And I don't have the same relationship with him that I have with my GI. I go back to see them sometime this month, later in the month, I think. And I will very much talk to him about all of this as well. But having my GI's blessing for it was a huge step, like huge, gigantic step. And if I can get everybody to sign off on it and get it, interventional radiology is normally the ones that do it, so maybe it'll be mine that are doing it too. So anyways, a step in the right direction. So thanks for going on this awesomeness with me. I'll see y'all later.